Hi everyone! So this is our third live streaming session on Instagram and Facebook. Today we have Francesco Lietti with us, who has been in Hong Kong for quite so many years. He has exhibited with us a few times in a photo art for Hong Kong and Singapore. So we're just here at his place today to know more about him and his inspiration and artist practice. So
Thank you very much
yeah,
to the Affordable Art Fair for having me.
Thank you, Francesco. Can you tell us a little bit more about, say, when did you come to Hong Kong and like how, why, and yeah.
So I came to Hong Kong in very early 2006. So by now, like we were discussing before, we were joking before, I'm double Hong Kong resident, permanent resident, 14 years in Hong Kong. And originally I came as an architect. I studied architecture, so I work as an architect in the UK and here. And when I came, there was a lot of work here. So I worked for many years until February 2017 for one company, basically the same company, big company in Hong Kong. I worked for all my years there. Yeah.
Were you painting while you were working?
I was always painting here and back in the UK, and also when I was a kid or when I was younger. So I always had that side of
Because we all know about your painting as, you know, the big city landscapes. Have you always focused on the city landscapes, or have you had different themes or like?
Actually, I had different themes. Let's say when I was in London, I would paint more like scenes with people, which somehow I abandoned when I came to Hong Kong. Maybe I just fell in love with the buildings and the hills and the sea. So the more, strictly speaking, the more cityscape-based painting started in Hong Kong. Before I was doing more things about travel, as well as the city mixed with people.
Okay, I see. Because other than Hong Kong, you also traveled to other places in Asia, right? What other places did you go to? Can you tell us more about?
Yeah, so since I love to travel, I always loved to travel before. And of course, when I came here, many opportunities opened up for me. Everything is so close, the Philippines, Thailand, and I couldn't miss an opportunity to go there. You can see from my Lonely Planet collection that I tried to go to as many places as I could. And as I traveled there, I realized every trip was a little adventure, a little experience, and it just provided a lot of inspiration for my life in general, or for paintings, for artworks. Yeah.
So do you usually, like, say, because I see some of your artworks other than the cityscape ones that we're gonna go into detail later on. Say something for this piece. Do you usually paint by memory, or do you like jot down some of the key points somewhere before painting?
Generally, I just go straight onto the canvas from memory. But I've done sketches before. Sometimes I do sketches. I definitely take photos so I can, retain the memories. I got a huge collection of all my travel photos. And what I do when I travel, I would also collect things that I could use into the painting later. For example, newspapers, magazines. Let's say that I go to India, I would take magazines so that I can put the alphabet, the Indian alphabet, into the paintings to make the painting more connected to where it's coming from. Or I would take receipts from restaurants, or bus tickets, or even sand, like we were talking before, and then I would mix the sand into the paint. And put it back onto the canvas.
Everything goes back.
Yeah. This one, for example, is a painting this one I painted many years ago. It's in Laos, a place called Van Vieng. And this place is famous because back in the day, the hippies who used to travel from London to Sydney, they would stop in different places along the way, maybe to party or to, I don't know what they did now, in Goa, in India, in Kabul, and here. And here there's one thing that you do, which is you take an old tire of a truck, and then you flow downstreams in a river, just enjoying what you see. No?
That sounds fun.
It's really nice. And I did it. It takes maybe an hour and a half. You can stop. There are some parties and you can jump in the water. And then when I came back to my guest house, I took a beer and I enjoyed. And there's a beautiful sunset going on. So I took some photos and I memorized that very moment. And I just painted these scenes more than once, actually, because I really love this memory. And if you look closely, probably you would see a couple of receipts from restaurants in Ban Vieng or something for sure.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then the orange is mostly because sunset.
The orange is a sunset. It was a beautiful sunset. I got a photo that I can show you. So I put some of these memories in this book. Do a little bit of advertisement. And there's a chapter in this book that's called Colors of Asia, Paintings by Francesco Lietti. So there's a chapter that's called Colors of Asia, and it's 20 short stories about travels and how these travels inspired a painting. So this is that specific painting. Yeah. I wrote a little story, and then you can see here the process of the tubing, where we're loading all the tires on a truck. Yeah. And just driving upstream so that we can get into the tire, fun part, and then float downstream. And when I got to my guest house, this is a little bit the sunset. It's a different. I mean, it's much darker and more purple. Yeah. But when I think about this, and then I mix it with the greens of the landscape, the orange of the monks. I don't know. Yeah, I came up with this one. Yeah. It's in my head. It doesn't need to be necessarily like the photo. Yeah. But I do have photo as a reference for this one.
So I guess a lot of times you also project your feelings for that place into your painting as well, with all the emotions.
Absolutely.
Aside from techniques and everything.
That's a major thing that I'm trying to. The paintings that I found came out more successful, and at least for me, the ones that I love the most were the ones where I could project more about the memory, about the love that I have of a place or an adventure that I had.
So is there like a city or a place that impressed you the most? Or
generally, I like Asia very much, everywhere. Recently, I've been exploring very much Central Asia, meaning Iran or Armenia, Uzbekistan, and I'm really in love with those places. The people, the culture. I really feel an affinity with. I don't know. Maybe my ancestors came from there. When I'm there, they talk to me in the language, so maybe they think that I'm from there or something. So maybe there's a connection that comes from somewhere. Okay. And I always loved Southeast Asia. Maybe that's the reason why I'm here. Hong Kong is Southeast Asia, obviously. So places like Laos, the Philippines, I love very much. Maybe the jungle, it's so lush. I love green, the green color, and all these shades of green. And I like to drive the scooter in the fields.
More laid back.
Yeah, I just love it. So those parts are very interesting. India is very intense as an experience, but color-wise, smells, flavors is incredibly inspiring. So I cannot tell you one place. I love everything about Asia, all of it.
I also see that you have quite some, different houseware and furniture that looks like they're coming from different places.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more maybe about that umbrella? You said it's from...
Yeah, actually these umbrellas are from also Laos. I don't think I bought them in the same trip because I went back to Laos again with my parents a few years later. And the best place that I visited in Laos is called Luang Prabang. I don't know if you've been there. There's like the Mekong River just flowing. It's a magical place. With monks going for the rice in the morning and the orange ribbon. And I bought a few of these that I have dotted around the house. So they also come from Laos, but different trip. This thing where the umbrella is standing on is the man, I think it's the man, or the woman. The woman and the one is the man. They come from Bali. I don't know how I got into buying these because I had in my mind that I would buy a statue of this type. I think I saw one in the Philippines many years ago. And then once I went to Bali, the last day, I stopped at a place where they were carving wood. And I went there and I haggled for the price for very nice guys, no tea, drink the tea here and there. And eventually we got to the agreement, no? But when I realized if I send them, it would cost me 3 times as much. It doesn't make sense, no?
Yeah.
And so I say, okay, maybe it's not the right time. But then I don't remember if it was the wife. I think the wife convinced me that why don't you bring them home on the plane? And I thought, okay, it's a crazy idea, but maybe we can do it.
Yeah, just do it.
So I lifted, I think, the man of the two, and I think it was manageable, no? So, okay, let's wrap it. I paid everything. And then I lifted the woman. I don't know if it's a different wood or more dense wood. It was like 3 times the weight. And I thought, Jesus, how am I going to do this? And maybe they're going to break,
during the trip.
When they fall down with the suitcases because of the top here, but I made it. So I came back with these 2 huge pieces of wood, and here they are from Bali.
Yeah. Did actually say, because you were having you were interacting with say the owners over there, did any experiences that you had in different trips in Asia actually kind of affected the way that you were painting, or other than inspiration wise? Was there anything?
Affected it. I guess when I travel, as well as fairs, especially your fairs, I'm always very careful and attentive to look. I like to look very much at the details, the technique, the presentation of a painting. I'm very quick to make my mind up if I like it or not.
Okay.
So that's okay. So I don't look at that very much. I look more at the techniques, and then I would, if I see something that I like and then I think can be useful to my style, I kind of take inspiration and borrow it and integrate it into my style. Because in the end of the day, the inspiration comes from everywhere, even fellow artists. So during the years, I picked up all these techniques that some have used and I'm using in the fairs, but also maybe traveling. Maybe you see an exhibition or you see a local artist. I always like to go and see what they do, whether it's wood carving or batik or something very ethnical or more modern, doesn't matter, and try to get inspired.
Yes. I know that lately you've been also working, other than your regular paintings that we're all familiar with, that you also work on something a little different.
Yes, I can show you. I can I walk there with my wire, or I just leave the wire here?
He's gonna go.
One is there, one.
Yes, please. Oh, okay.
I keep the wire on.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll follow you.
You follow me. Okay. So I will show you. Okay, let me show you something that I'm doing with the ink first. So this, I'm not sure where I took the inspiration for this one, but I think this is because when I started doing these things when I went to Italy, because I couldn't bring too many materials. So I just brought my pens and ink and started doing like more of a abstraction of the Hong Kong cityscapes, where the message is always the density, the buildings interlocking one of the other, the relationship of the buildings. You can almost imagine the relationship of the people, because you can see here, I can see my neighbor like 3 meters from my bedroom. And so it's very Hong Kong, where you look out.
Intimate, very intimate.
Very intimate, and you can imagine all these lives going on around you, upstairs, downstairs. So I think that's the message in most of my paintings. And here is tackled in a more abstract way. So I started doing this in the mountains where I go in Italy, where I couldn't bring the paint. I just had paper and ink. The Chinese ink, of course, is, you could say that the inspiration could be also from some calligraphy, because it's a very Chinese thing to use like ink and a little brush.
You have your own stamp.
I got my own stamp, which says Collage of Asia. I can show you the original stamp. I got another one done just recently, a little bit smaller, because the original one is huge. I can show it to you. So they carved it in Chengwan. There's a guy who does the carving for me. It's very good. I'll show it. I'll show it to you. So there's a big version. This is the big version. And then so this is you read it like it's Asian, no? This is the one that's easy to read in more modern language. The other one is more older And then I got another one, small, just done right now for the smaller ones. And then I show you something that's more maybe recent. I just did a few ones, and I can bring it, or you can come here. So this is done with the wood, and basically this is, I think it's interesting in a way that because I'm an architect.
Yeah.
So what I did, I kind of went back to the techniques that I used to use as an architect. I designed this in AutoCAD. And then when I was happy with the proportions, I cut out the pieces of wood. So the same logic of the interlocking.
Yeah.
As an experiment, I tried to use woods of different texture, different depth, just to give a more three-dimensional feeling. And then I painted them in a simplified version, you could say, of the pattern that I would see in the buildings outdoor. You know, maybe some buildings have mullions, so it's just a simple scoring.
Yeah.
Some buildings may have the dots or the windows.
Yeah.
Then I painted them all in different ways, and then I glued them together.
I was gonna ask, is there a reason why you only pick, like, say, black, gray, and red?
I don't know. I did different experiments. I can show you another one which is more red and orange. So because it's very, very beginning, I just did 4, and I started off with each one. I tried to do a little different experiment. Maybe in the future I'll do crazier color, more bold colors.
Just
if you
whatever
want.
comes to mind when you're working.
I'm just really experimenting. So I say, okay, there's a lot going on different from what I do normally. Let's keep it simple now, and then we expand and progress it. So this is another one. So hopefully there was a show scheduled with a gallery in Star Street called Novalis Art. The show is still on, but it's gonna be postponed, and we have to discuss when because of the situation. But hopefully it will happen, which is good because it's gonna give me a little bit more time to do a few more
and to experiment more.
And to experiment more.
Possibilities.
Yeah, more. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we can dive into your work in progress and see how part of your art making process, how it goes.
Yes.
Oh, wait, we have a question.
Yeah.
So we have an audience that is an architect. Gabriel wants to ask what you think of today's cities that are all becoming the same, losing their stylized differences. Oh, wow.
Wow. I don't know. I don't have the feeling that all the cities are becoming the same, actually. To me, when I travel, I can see the strong identity of every city. Okay, maybe you look from afar and you see some glass tall office buildings. They could be the same in Taipei, in Hong Kong, and in Shanghai. But then when you walk around the streets, eat the foods, meet the people, the vibe, the experience is actually different.
So I guess when you look at the big picture, there are some
and even the big picture, because the topography of Saigon is always going to be very different than the topography of Hong Kong. Hong Kong has a harbor, hills. Saigon is flat with a river. So I don't know. There's a certain degree of globalization. Of course, I'm going to see a McDonald's basically in every city where I go, and you know.
Yeah.
But still, I feel for now, still they retain the identity for me. I hope that day where they will all be the same is far away.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay.
So you see here a series that I'm doing of Hong Kong. Hopefully, I will use some of these for the shows that we are having at the Conrad with BAC. And a little bit bigger than usual. So these are 1 meter by 900. You can see there's 3 here, more of a night view of the harbor. This one, I guess it's more of a view from, I don't know, you're from Hong Kong, maybe you help me. I think it's from somewhere, Kowloon, maybe from Diamond Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Diamond Hill area.
Looking down to the harbor.
Looking down.
Yeah.
More on a pastel blue tone. And this one is also seen from, I think, from Kowloon side.
Did you usually take a picture first, or you just pick a view that comes to mind?
I do take some photos. I have a motorbike. I go around the hills and take photos. But nowadays, because I made so many of Hong Kong. It's hard for me to take the amazing
Many
photo.
yeah.
I go on the internet, for sure there's someone who has done a much better job than me. So I take inspiration from some of the photos that I find and I source on the internet. And I use part of them. It doesn't need to be like I copy the photo. I use it as an inspiration of how a view could be. I set it up, but then I just make up buildings that don't exist, or I change it. Yeah. All these hills I kind of invented. So
yeah, because I know a lot of your paintings are actually more of a collage.
Yeah.
Of mixed media.
Yeah.
As well, rather than just painting itself, which makes it unique. Always.
Mixed media is the correct word, because I really use a lot of things. There's a lot of acrylic. The base is acrylic, obviously, but like you said, there's a lot of collage, and more actually. Then I use paints, I use inks, I use different things, even the wax pastels. Yeah. And then I either varnish or put an epoxy resin. So there's a bit of everything. It's really hard to find what's the main. I guess the main thing is the acrylic, but there will be. Sometimes I even put oil. So yeah.
Could you show us a little?
Sure.
How you?
Sure. So normally, what I do, the position, I can move around the house depending on the light. Maybe the morning more in that area with the natural light. And in the evening, I will work from here because I got my light. And normally I work on the floor. I've always worked on the floor for some reason. So the key tools will be, this is the collage phase. Yeah. So I go through different phases. Sometimes I prepare, I paint, I give the layers. Sometimes I do just big blocks in acrylic. Sometimes I score lines with ink or something. And sometimes I just collage. Yeah. So let's say that I'm in the collage phase right now. So I would have scissors, something to rip the paper, and how do you call these ones? The clip? The one that you use for hair or something.
Tweezer.
And then I experimented with many types of glues. This one I learned it from an experience that I had in a school as an artist residency. In a school, they taught me to use this one. You buy in hardware shops. I think it's the one that they use for billboards and stuff. So it's it's a powder that you make into a very liquid kind of glue. I need to add water every time that I use it because it gets a little bit dry.
Right?
Every time. Yeah. So this, and then I have my box of magazines, everything. Like, for example, we were talking about India. I would have a stash of Indian things. I love this one. Unfortunately, it's gone out of production. If you guys have old ones, please bring them to me. Because there's always some very nice catchphrases that I think have a little bit of sense of humor. So I would use a little bit of that. Sometimes it's random, like I want to use both the English and the Chinese, so I would have bilingual magazines, so I can understand if I pick the Chinese what it is. And I would try to stick to non-political stuff, more to arty stuff, so it's more poetic, the message.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, because I do notice quite a lot of Chinese text that you have in your painting. I was going to ask you, how do you know, or like, how do you pick which Chinese
I try to take not too many risks and use something where I can guess the meaning, or I know the source, and then I would have a friend of mine to give it a double check, because a couple of times I put something that was weird and they say, this is weird, can you please change this one? And I just change it.
But it's all part of experimenting as well.
It's part of experimenting. Yeah. So there's a combination could be, I could use something that the meaning catches me, I think it's fun and it goes well with the painting, or maybe the size or the color can work with the painting, so it's the same color tone. Yeah. Or sometimes I want something specific, so I would actually print it out myself. Maybe I type it. In this case, I don't have text, but you can see I photoshopped out some previous buildings, and I can use this also to collage.
Oh, okay.
So I can do this with people, trees, buildings, or text as well. Yeah. So sometimes I do write my text and I print it out myself just to use a specific text that I absolutely want into that painting. Yeah, you got a bit of everything, song, scores, chords.
Oh, product catalog.
This is my chop, so I got my chop that I can also collage in
Yeah.
at the end, because you cannot use the chop on the canvas. You know, magazines like this where I can take out something. You see, this is more of an, I don't know, more exotic.
Oh, it was from your travels, right? One of
This
your
is one
travels.
for my. Normally they are in there because now I'm working on the Hong Kong. So you see a lot of things right here. There's a lot of. And the way that I would do it, let's say that I started by using, you know, because Hong Kong they have all these billboards and advertisement on the top of the on the buildings, right?
Yeah, the advert that they have.
Okay, let's say that we like culture, just for the sake.
Okay.
So I'm gonna break it down like this. I prefer to have not like a clean cut because I think it looks a little bit better if it's ripped. It's a little bit
More raw.
It's more raw and more artistic, but I try to make it in a way that's not too crazy. And then I try to see how I integrate this with the buildings, where it can work well. The size, the color. Say that we like it here, for example. Yeah, it can be a billboard. And this will build a little bit of depth because it will look like these guys behind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what I do, I apply a little bit of this glue, a little bit generous like this. This one I learned from the kids. Sometimes, you know, when you ask me about where I learned my techniques, I learn from everywhere. And then I would just put it on, try to be precise on the position, and then just give it another layer. So generally this will dry and it will stick on, and then eventually when I put the final finish, like the varnish or the resin, it will just seal everything. But I do a lot of, I mean, this is the simplest way that I do, but then when I have a lot of cuttings here, then I have bits of papers that will become, for example, because I will have a lot of cuttings around here, then they will become, for example, my antennas. You know, say that this is the final part. Let's say that I want to add antennas to buildings here. So then I would add antennas. So maybe I just go on for 20 minutes putting antennas. Yeah. Or when I showed you, you notice there's a lot of boats. The boats, maybe half are painted, but some are also
just cut it out.
Cut it out. Let's say that I want a sailing boat. Then I could actually do something like this. Say that I like the combination and put it there. Maybe I can make it smaller because it's far. So this could be a little sailing boat in the Hong Kong harbor. And I can even create the base for the boat, right?
Also from the clippings.
Yeah, maybe sometimes I just, you know, I would say that maybe 50% are painted and 50% are collaged. In this case, they are all collaged because the amount of C is so small. So I think it was easier probably. So let's say that I do something like that. And maybe it's not all, maybe then at the end I go with some ink and do, you know, some like those things when you are drowning or something that you need to put around your waist.
Oh, like a lifesaver?
Lifesaver, or want to draw a little person in ink, so I can go back and touch it up.
So it's really a mix of...
it's a mix. For
depending
example,
on the canvas.
a total mix. You see now a few trees are painted on, but maybe later I will add some or cars or trees in the distance that I will collage. So for 1 hour, I just cut out the heads of the trees and then I just draw the lines of the trunks and then I glue all the trees. I don't know if you can see there, but you can see a plane. There's, maybe I can show it to you.
Oh, yeah, a plane.
Do you want me to bring it in the light here? Just to show you. So let's say that I was working on this one. In this case, For example, this tree has been painted, right? This tree is like a collage. The tree.
Oh, wow.
So I collage this one.
Oh yeah, I can see the words, the text on it.
Yeah, you can see some of the text. This plane is painted, although then I touched up some, maybe some ink. This one is actually a piece of collage. So it's really, these buildings, this is painted, I think. I'm not even, I don't even know myself. This is collage. So it's really, I keep working it until I'm happy.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like I need to cover, maybe here it's a little bit dirty, I want to paint over a square and then I'll add some texture to make it into, look like a building. Or maybe simply easier for me to take something like this. I do it rough now, interlock it in the right position. And by now I kind of have a good eye and became faster in cutting it out in the right situation. So I can cover something that I don't like or just make the painting more and more complex as I go. Because I think the end goal for me is to give this feeling of density. So when this is Hong Kong, a painting about Hong Kong, when you see, maybe you don't recognize the view, but you will know it's Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Even, going back to the question of your viewer before, yes, cities are becoming the same, but when you see this, I dare you not to say that it's another city
else.
Or, this is very much Hong Kong because of the hills and so, yeah.
So it's pretty much, it's like a go with the flow process, or we would
It's
say?
very much go with the flow because I think, I don't know, for my idea of art is that you just relax and just go and do it. I don't plan it. Honestly, I don't plan it. I just let it be. If I had to plan it, probably it wouldn't be as fun as it is. Yeah.
Okay. Is there? Okay. Should we end? Okay. Thank you, Francesco, today for sharing your artworks and your inspiration with us.
Thank you, Vivian.
Yeah,
thank you, Affordable Art Fair, for interviewing me.
Thank you.